So I've been writing scripts for about 10 years now, both for myself personally, for this website, as you can see, there's a few scripts listed, and also for clients. And so I need to be able to do it as quickly and efficiently as possible. So these are my tips on how to do just that. First thing is we've got a little script here, and what you see a lot of people doing is clicking authorize now. What you want to do is first preview the script. Now, if you use Control P, the same as print, it will preview and then it will ask you to authorize. The reason we do this is it will read the script and see what needs authorizing before you actually go through and authorize it. So I'll do exactly that. The second piece of advice is to never use this IDE. It's rubbish. The only thing it's good for is giving you code hints. So if you're wondering how you access something, you might be able to say add that dot and then read through and then say dot and then it will give you tips, which it is possible to get that in an IDE like VS Code, but it's sometimes best to just come in and use that. But otherwise, what we'll be doing is copying and pasting between an IDE. And that's tip number 3, is to simply use an IDE. I like VS Code, and the way I will work is I'll come in here, I will write the code, and everything just works really well. There's certain keyboard shortcuts and things like that. If I want to copy this down or highlight it, I know all of the shortcuts, and as you learn those, you start to be able to code a lot faster. Another quick tip for you is to use ES6. So Google Apps Script and Google Ads Scripts only recently started to support ES6. So you'll see a lot of older scripts which use var instead of const or let. I would strongly recommend using ES6 sort of, I don't know what the word is, syntax, and just learning about what ES6 can offer, because it can be really, really powerful, make your code look a lot cleaner, and just sort of make the whole experience a lot more enjoyable. And of course, going forward, ES6 is just going to be used more and more. So I would strongly recommend using that. Here I'm using const, for example. So if I tried to change this, it would give me an error, because in theory, this will never change. And so it just helps with things like that. Okay, and then what I said earlier was to copy your script. So you'll copy it from here, and then you'll paste it into Google Ads. I actually recommend doing that as little as possible. So what you really want to do is get the script to a point where it's essentially working as close as possible, and only then will you paste it in. And the reason is this is incredibly slow when you preview anything, especially if you've got logs. It might take, I don't know, it might take 10 seconds, which is still a long time for code to run. It might take minutes. It might take 20 minutes, something like that. So it's really important that as part of your debugging process, you don't have to wait for this to run through everything just to get an error on line 52 and then have to figure that out and then try again. It's a huge waste of time. And I should add, on manager scripts, also known as MCC scripts, that problem multiplies. It's a little bit buggy. It's really poor at running quickly and telling you where the problem. Sometimes you won't get any logs whatsoever. So that's really important. And another quick tip on top of that as well is if you are creating manager scripts, always create the single account script first. Do it on one account, get it working perfectly, and only then do you need to add the extra bit of code for it to run in parallel on your manager account. Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. If we don't want to keep copying and pasting all the time and running it a lot, what do we do? So what we do is we install Node. And all Node does is it means that you can type Node like that, and you can start to type JavaScript in. So let's say we're wondering about how I might split this string. Sometimes it's just nice to be able to say, okay, I think I do this, and then that will give me an array. So I'll just test it, and there you go, that's giving me an array. So that kind of works, although what I want to do is have a letter in the array. So maybe I'll say, actually, pass in the argument like that, and then suddenly I have SPLIT. And then when it comes to writing my code, I can copy this in and say, okay, that's now going to work. But the real beauty in this is to create like a little either a sandbox or a test script like this. And then what we'll do, we'll say something like our text is split, and then we're going to say text.split, same thing, and let's console.log that. And then we say node, and then it's just test.js, and then we can run this file. And that's really what you want to do with the entire script. So write as much as you can within a file like this, and you'll notice, that runs incredibly quickly. Even if I just do this in Google Ads, which is absolutely nothing. Let's just see how long it takes. God. So that was 9 seconds, which is forever if you have to keep doing that. So yeah, compared to how instant that is, I know I'm really driving the point home, but if there's one takeaway from this video, that's probably the main one. To install Node, use your test scripts just to run things. So let's delve deeper into that a little bit. So what I've prepared earlier, thanks to ChatGPT, is some code. So you'll have noticed that this script is going to be an alert for poor performing keywords. I think that's a pretty good example. So let's just paste this in, and then I'm going to say, let's call it data is this. And so this is similar to the sort of thing that the API will return. What you'll actually get in the new version of the API is this will actually be campaign.name. So when you do this, you might want to just make sure that it matches what the API will return. You can see what the API will give you in the documentation, and maybe you can ask ChatGPT to give you a newer version, but I won't do that now. The point is if we want an alert for our keyword, so we've got our match type is exact, 10 clicks, 50 impressions. So it's actually giving me, okay, so what we can start to do is say, okay, for row of data. So by the way, the word of means that every row, which I'll assign to a variable, is going to be a row in this array. So then we can say console.log row, just to have a look at that. I wish this was a little bit better formatted, but there you go. And so, okay, let's have a look at this then. So we've got our rows, and we can see that we can access clicks, impressions, etc. So now we're going to say, so let's start building this up. Let's say clicks equals row.clicks, and then hopefully conversions is in there. And then as part of our script, maybe what we want to do is alert based on the conversion rate. And what we might want to say is, and this is something I generally recommend as well, is when we're writing the script, is start to get a framework of how it will work. So we might say, okay, we'll have a function that says is problem keyword. And then let's have a little comment above this as well. So it will accept a keyword, which is going to be keyword data. So it's going to be an object. And then it will return true or false if it's a problem keyword. And then what you can do is you can do / star like that and go down, and it will sort of scaffold this. So that's another little tip for you as well, to if you first give it your argument and then return what it's going to return, it'll help you sort of scaffold that comment. So I'm going to say it returns a Boolean. I can write that like that so it looks a bit better. And the param, that's an object, and the keyword is keyword data from the API, something like that. And then what it's probably going to do, it's probably going to say if keyword.conversion rate is under, let's say, I don't know, 1%, then turn true. And after all, then, if it doesn't match anything, it returns false. Now, I'm not going to go into this, but the point is you can just have this function, which we will, let's pop that in here, so we've got it. And then for each one of these rows, we could run it against this function, see what the problem keywords are, make sure it works. So for example, it might not catch a keyword because it doesn't have any conversions. So we'll say, okay, if keyword.conversions equals 0, then we'll also return true. And what you might want to do is say function calculate conversion rate, pass in the keyword or the keyword data, and then it's going to say keyword dot conversion rate. I'll actually do it like that. Is equal to keyword conversions divided by keyword clicks. And then again, if these are 0, that's going to give you an error. But that's the sort of error you're going to see with enough data and running this and trying it out using Node and using VS Code. And so it's really important that you keep your functions, and this is just general programming advice, nice and tight, nice and testable, and nice and reusable as well. So this actually might be better if it, rather than providing a keyword, and it would be better actually, if you provide it with conversions and clicks, and then it can calculate the conversion rate. And you have to think as well, or at least I have to think as well, that I will probably do this again in another script. So it really helps if this is written really well and it just works. And then this will return the keyword. And again, make a habit of writing these comments. So instantly you know what's going on within each individual function. Okay, couple more things. I don't know how many tips this is. I was aiming for 10. So if you type spreadsheets.new or spreadsheet.new, it'll create a new spreadsheet. I think that's cool. So as part of our script, so what we're saying is we want an alert based on keywords. So you might say the campaign needs to contain something, or maybe we'll have a conversion rate filter. The point is to use a sheet wherever you can, because it just makes using the script a lot easier. Rather than having to open up a script to actually change your variables, you can just go into a sheet. It means other people can use it, and it just gives you a lot more options. You can sort of log changes. You can add a timestamp so you can instantly see when it last ran. Don't rely on having to go back into Google Ads all the time to see what's going on. And what I would also recommend is using named ranges. So if you imagine we're going to put our settings here, and this is campaign name contains. I recommend adding a named range, which you can do. I think you want to right click. I'm hoping it's down here somewhere. Define named range. And then we will call this, let's do it in caps, campaign name contains. And then within our script, we're just going to say, so our spreadsheet's defined. So we'll say spreadsheet.get, let's say get the active sheet. And then get range, and then you just type in the name of our range, and then let's say get value, and then I will log that. I know I said not to use this, but it's worth doing. Name, check if that works, and there you go. It ran even faster now, despite accessing a sheet, and you got our name. And what that means is, let's say that we go, actually, let's update this, let's move this over there. You run it, and it's still going to work, whereas if we had that set as A1, it would have broken the script. And that's it. I hope that was useful if anyone is writing scripts. If anyone's got any questions, leave a comment. This is my first real video where I'm talking about this kind of thing, so any feedback would be appreciated, even if you're just telling me to politely bugger off. Thank you.